Australia, Joaquin de Lima here, your Liberal Democrats candidate for Hume. Today we're filling in a survey for RDA. So let's get to it. First name, last name, email. Okay. I am running in Hume, New South Wales. Should have that if you can't pick that anyway. I am running with the Liberal Democratic Party, aka Liberal Democrats, aka LDP, aka Libertarians. In 3 sentences or less, why should people vote for you? Okay, I'll think about that one for a sec. Okay, that didn't take too long. I just didn't want to have more dead air on this one. So my 3 sentences are: I'm a former New South Wales health worker, which I am, a remote IT worker. I've been stood down for a little over 6 months due to the vaccine mandates, despite going through all the exemptions and going through all the minutiae of the court cases and the public health orders and the many related New South Wales acts about who applies to what. I was in Canberra on the weekend of Feb 12th with everyone. That was a crazy, crazy energy. If you were there, you'd know. And I will vote no to all questions until we have freedom. Explain one policy idea you have that showcases your value system and willingness to effect positive change in this country. I know this one, but again, I'm not going to make you sit through me typing it. Okay, so the one thing that I'm working on a lot is I'm forming an alliance of freedom candidates across the country and across minor parties and independents that will pledge to vote no to every question, including forming government, until the major parties coerce the states to remove all coercive policies. Not scaled back, not announced, removed. The only exception to the No to All pledge is a federal Bill of Rights with the teeth to strip the states of their coercive mandates and ensure they cannot be repeated. This alliance already has members from most minor parties. So if you've been following this situation, you would know that coincidentally, every time there is a certain type of testimony in a court case that the health orders are amended to reflect what they claim to have said, I can confirm from first-hand experience that that is not true. If there is any back office staff that should be exempted from something like this, it is a remote IT worker that never goes to any sort of frontline area, that has been working fully remotely for over 2 years and has already got an agreement to work fully remotely going forward, or had before the mandates, and was doing pretty well to earn that. The power in this particular move is that it uses the size and leverage of the major parties against them. If there is even a realistic expectation of this alliance being formed, which I'll confidently say at this point it is, that the major parties will be engaged in what I call a 3D Mexican standoff between each other and at the state and federal level to try and beat each other to remove the mandates and form government. The very worst thing that they could do is just hold out and force us to keep our pledge, because then we can demonstrate who actually has the power. Moving on to the next screen. Okay, objective number 1. Permanently eliminate pandemic emergency powers, COVID-19 vaccine mandates, and COVID passports. If elected, would you advocate for this? Yes, it fits in line with my major policy, and scaling back government. It's gotten crazy over the last several years. Establish an Australian Bill of Rights. Well, I think I covered that in my headline policy. Establish an independent media oversight body. See, now that one is tricky because we cannot increase government power over speech. The devil is in the details. would support scaling back censorship mechanisms and allow the free market to decide standards. I think we can go with that. I think everyone can agree with that. Restrict digital surveillance. Absolutely. That is included in the Bill of Rights. Restrict, reduce influence of global. Absolutely. A small and efficient government does not extend the borders of its nation and the accountability of its people. Objective 6. Initiate a proper and thorough investigation into the suppression order from the Wood Royal Commission. If elected. Again, devil is in the detail. I agree with the sentiment, obviously, of if there were... What is the saying? Let the truth be spoken, may the heavens fall, or something along those lines. No matter how bad the truth is, people need to know the truth. Without the truth, no one is positioned in the right place to solve the problem that we're looking at. Generally agree to expose corruption. I'm just not even going to stuff anymore. Deal with that another day. Okay. Start legal proceedings into the handlings. Shit, yes. Accountability must be had for all who their responsibilities are let. There we go. All right. Revive Australian manufacturing. If elected, would you advocate for this? Yes. Obviously, a strong nation is an independent nation, so we need to ensure that we are not reliant on other areas of the world that can cut us off on a whim, a legally questionable whim, because then we don't have self-determination. We don't have a representative democracy if the will of the people cannot be exercised due to the external influence of a foreign nation or power. Investigate APRA and either repeal. Yes, absolutely repeal. They have been coercing all the experts that would have something to say about the situation of the past 2 years by threatening to revoke their licenses. And if people aren't familiar with the difference of threatening someone's job and revoking their license, threatening someone's job, I work in IT, imagine that I can just get another job in IT, which I will do if you don't elect me to Parliament. But the difference between that and revoking my license from using computers, how could I earn a living doing that in any capacity? This is what APRA's been doing to our experts. It should be telling us what's been going on. Restrict/reduce the influence of corporate lobby groups from Canberra. Obviously, I don't even think I need to elaborate on that one. Next page. Okay, so these ones are going to need a little bit more than a yes/no, so I'll go back to the pausing policy. So the first question, to tell us your thoughts on immigration. Skilled immigration should be a tool fulfilling a specific need that cannot be filled domestically. This should only be applied to identified sectors that cannot be served domestically due to constraints. So what I'm talking about there, again, is you need to have self-sufficiency of a nation. It's all well and good to have goods manufactured in the other side of the world at a fraction of the cost, but when you take into account the cost of transporting it, the cost of our weakness for not being able to fill that need domestically in case our domestic policy shifts from the desires of the foreign supplier. So there should be an identified need for that. I mean, this is a very extreme hyperbolic example, but if for whatever reason we need to there is a demand in the workforce for skilled workers that have extreme cold weather training and experience, Arctic scientists or something like that. That would be a reasonable excuse to allow immigration to fill that need, as long as that there is either a measured limit to that, or that there is a plan to fill that need domestically over the long term, if that's what it's going to be. Next question, how will you advocate to support our farmers and better manage water? Increased private property rights so that the landowner can decide what they do with their property. Decreased regulation, increasing competition. Pretty simple there. Let them use their land for the best purpose that they see fit, and let the competition, unrestricted competition, increase their production and output. Next question. What is your position on the state excluding parents from their children's welfare? I answered a question similar to this recently, so I just stole my own answer. Schools should educate students on reading, writing, and math. Ultimately, the trivium to grow into the quadrivium. Parents should be the ones to address this area of a child's life. This is talking about welfare and what brackets they're prohibiting gender counselling and treatment. Anything that a teacher says to a student under any context needs to remain within the bounds of what would be acceptable on the front page of a newspaper. I think that's pretty reasonable. How will you advocate to support our defence services and veterans? Military should protect the nation's borders, not be a policeman or humanitarian. No foreign aid of any kind while we have struggling Australians domestically, including veterans. Next question, what is your position on voluntary euthanasia? I believe that the individual owns their body. Again, the devil's in the detail on this one. I need to see the bill to ensure there's no increase in government coercion. Question, how will you advocate to increase manufacturing? There's a lot we can do here, but it mostly comes down to providing a stable and predicted environment to operate in. This includes, and I'll show you these policies, the debt and deficit policies, low flat taxes policies, small business policies, cheap and reliable energy policies, free speech policies, and yes, even voluntary superannuation policies. I figured I might as well start showing some of these. So we can see under debt and deficit policies, we're basically talking about slimming down the government, getting coercion out of the way, letting efficiency take over, and letting the free market decide what is best. And it pretty much continues with lower taxes again, stable, take the load off the economy, allow small businesses to thrive. Again, energy is the fundamental measurement of manufacturing and even society's well-being and development in general. You need to be able to have access to energy. Free speech, obviously, if you don't have a competition of ideas, then you can't make progress and you can't innovate. Again, freedom from surveillance so that corporations have surety of where the lines are, basically. Voluntary superannuation, again, just to stimulate the economy and the consumer end as opposed to the superannuation fund that sits there doing what it does while you wait for it to never come. Okay, what is your position on abortion? All right, I think I'll steal this one too. Okay, this is another one that I stole from my response to a different survey. I don't believe it's the government's job to fund abortion as a form of contraceptive. It's a highly inefficient process for everyone concerned. If the individual wants to use abortion as a form of contraception, they should pay for the premium of doing so themselves. Pretty neutral policy. I really don't want to, and I don't think it's my place to go into the pros and cons generally policy-wise of abortion and the context under which it's applied. at a very beginning point, I don't think it should be funded by the taxpayer. How will you advocate for better use of our natural resources? This is getting a bit long, so I'll give it the same answer as manufacturing. It's pretty much exactly the same thing. What is your position on our current education system? Would you advocate for change? It's pretty much our policy. So to make it quick, the resources should follow the child. The parents should have ultimate control of what they can do with those resources, and the free market merit-based system should prioritize where the parent chooses to spend those resources. That includes homeschooling, that includes private schools, that includes whatever private association or business the parent decides is the best for their child. Okay, how will you advocate? What are your thoughts on climate change policies? Again, to save time, India and China first. We're tiny. If we need to do something so coercive and so restrictive and so detrimental to every aspect of society, let's see some hard evidence. None of this, or it would have been worse if we did X. Let's actually have some concrete, predictable proof that then becomes true. Everything that I've heard my whole life, every warning, and I've read, I remember reading many years ago, I think it was probably 08, the Garner report and the white papers that it links to, and the white papers it links to. And yeah, let's just say anthropogenic climate change, China and India first. How will you advocate for affordable housing for future generations? The government doesn't produce anything. The government is the size of a burden that sits on top of anything that produces anything. The best thing that we can do for affordable housing for future generations are pretty much all the same policies that apply to manufacturing. We have a stable, predictable working environment, then we can extract maximum efficiencies and things will be worth what they're actually worth, not with all the extra government bloat on top of it because they're trying to control something centrally that they shouldn't be. And final question on this page anyway, I know we're getting long. Explain how willing or not willing you are to work with minor parties and independents who align with your values. I think that's an easy slam dunk for me there. I'm creating a Freedom Candidate Alliance. It is already in progress. I already have agreements from candidates across parties, including independents across the country, for the one common goal that I think we can all agree on, which is to vote no to everything until the coercion is removed, and then Federal Bill of Rights from there. So yes, absolutely, reach out to me, join the alliance, help me push this anywhere, everywhere. That's definitely something that I'm keen for. By the time this finds its way to RDA, I might even have a video that could be linked at this time once it gets approved. Okay, and the last page is just links to my socials, website. The last one there is a link for donations. Hume's a large electorate and I'm pretty much doing this all on my own. So under $100, I can accept it from anywhere in the world without having to clarify details. I've added my headshot and my video I will include once I get authorization. And by the time you see this, hopefully it's up. So thank you, back to you, Monica Smith, and I hope to work together with you and everyone else who shares my values. Joaquin de Lima, Liberal Democrats candidate for Hume, signing off.
Authorised by Robert Cribb for the Liberal Democrats, Sydney.